when we're alone, we're able to better understand how we truly desire to feel when we are in connection with others. It's in a way the duality of life. This morning I was going through my usual morning routine, and today I felt called to do a somatic exercise. And the topic of today that I found felt most called to was on attachment. And that's what today's topic will be on, is on relationships as a whole, but more specifically friendships and the beauty of not having friends. I feel like solitude has been a very common theme in my life, starting from probably the beginning of high school. And now that I'm in a period of my life where I have been mainly in solitude, and I think that'd be something I'd be like kind of embarrassed to say, or maybe ashamed to say in the past, because I feel like growing up in a society where like you look at people who don't have any friends or who are in their own world or alone as quote unquote losers, and like you kind of would like pity them. But like as I gotten older and having experienced different environments and being around different people and different circumstances and just be in the thick of different types of relationships, like I'm so grateful that I have been able to reach a place in my life where I have been able to cultivate a true appreciation for solitude, and have been able to get to a place in terms of the relationship I have with myself where like being alone doesn't bother me. But I think it was, if anything, a very transformational period of my life where I kind of went in hermit mode and really have been able to like understand what solitude truly feels like. And with my rising consciousness of myself and how I have been able to, or have navigated certain friendships in this period of solitude, it really has awakened me to a point where I've been able to step back and really observe the friendships I had in the past, and which friendships I nurtured and kept around, and the friendships that I kind of just let go. And solitude has done many different things in the most amazing ways for my life, because it really has allowed me to invest in my own self relationship. Aside from that, it really has changed my perspective on friendships. I think it's very easy when in a society where everything is just very linear, and kind of like since a young age, you're kind of like guided to go down certain paths. So say like, of course, everybody, I mean, depending on where you're from and where you live, but like in the American United States, you go to elementary school, middle school, high school, and college if you decide to go. And you grew up in a community usually, and you're around other people. So like because of that, you are raised and you develop in environments where the majority of the connections you have are not necessarily by choice, but usually due to because of proximity and what you have access to in that moment. And I think for me, given that I had just a very, in a way, I would say unhealthy self-concept growing up, in terms of like the beliefs I was carrying and the programming I was carrying, and just like the way I felt about myself, like because of that, when you are living from that position of like low self-esteem and people pleasing and low self-worth, it will make you in a way just settle for anything. And when you kind of just settle for anything, and like you just make friendships with people because in a way you are supposed to, because it's around you, and like there's not even really a thought of like maybe branching out and maybe like developing friendships that with people that truly feel good to be around, And in a way, like it really made me think about like what I value in my relationships. Romantic relationships is a whole different topic, so that's most likely going to be another topic. But in this instance, in terms of friendships, I realized that I'm a person that really does value reciprocation. I value encouragement. I value kindness. And above all, I value like the energetic environment that exists when you're around certain people. In a way, I see that in the past, like it's not necessarily anybody's fault. For me to like say all this is not to like shame other people who have had friendships in the past or like make people look like they're evil, because that is not my goal with expressing this, but it really is mainly to like express that everyone deserves to feel good in their friendships, in all relationships. And I think that really begins when you are solid on what values are important to you, and also the quality of the relationship you have with yourself. And that's why I do believe like there is beauty in not having friends. And in other words, existing in a period of solitude. Because I truly believe that solitude is a gift to yourself to really experience what it feels like to be with yourself. And whether that be an enjoyable experience or not, it's an opportunity to really understand like who, like, in a way, who am I? What do I stand for? And what do I value? And I truly do believe like the relationship you have with yourself is the relationship you have with everybody and with everything. This period of my solitude has shifted my perspective of what I am willing to give grace to and what I am no longer open to negotiating. I don't think friendships should be one sided, where one person just gives, and another only takes. And we can't really blame the other person when we keep ourselves in those situations, because it really just comes down to boundaries. You might be a person that is very supportive and very encouraging, and you show up for people multiple times, or not even counting, but like you just show up for people when it matters, and supporting other people in their accomplishments and the just things that matter to them. But I think it's important to note that you yourself should receive that same energy, and it's not a selfish or inconsiderate thing to desire reciprocation in your friendships. I feel like because I had such a unhealthy connection to myself, I would just not even think about like how I was being treated in friendships, because it wasn't a thought for me, because I felt like I derived a lot of my worth from like how other people reacted to me or responded to me, and how included I was in certain situations, or like, I felt like I derived the majority of my worth from being the giver. Another thing is feeling good in your friendships. I would say like since I was very young, and it's a part of me that I've kind of repressed, but now I'm learning to embrace, and I have really truly started appreciating, is that I am someone that just picks up energy naturally. And I kind of like, I'm just a person that can feel the unseen, and I feel when vibes are off. And in a way, I would kind of like shut them down, because in a way, I didn't want to seem like I was sensitive or I couldn't take a joke. But at the end of the day, it's BS, you know? No one should ever have to feel like they have to walk on eggshells around people, or necessarily be the butt of the joke for everything, or have friends who like just clown on you on things that you care about, or like kind of like in a way not take you seriously when you speak about things, or kind of like try to like dim you in a way. And I've definitely had experience like that in the past, where I kind of would just like take it because I was like, okay, whatever. I guess this is just the quality of the friendship, or this is just the personality. Regardless if that person is like that, you deserve to feel good in every friendship. And maybe you don't like those jokes. Maybe you don't like being joked on all the time, or people like, in a way, being disrespectful, like as a few examples, like talking over you, or changing the subject when you're talking, or in a way trying to outshine you. And it's just a weird feeling. Like competitiveness in friendships is just like very weird, because I don't understand the point of it. A true friend will want to see you win. Above all, in a way, it's really just taking radical responsibility and asking yourself, like, why am I staying in situations that do not feel good? And that's something I really had to ask myself. But it really just starts with just believing you're worthy of feeling good in your friendships and in connection. And I would say it's of benefit to you to understand how attachment plays in your life, whether you are attracted to people who don't necessarily treat you right, but in the way you're attracted to them because there's parts of you that feels like that's all you deserve or that's what feels familiar. But overall, solitude really does allow you to become clear on what relationship you have with yourself. And from that analysis, you are in the best place to understand where there is disalignment with how you operate. When you are solid on your values, or in a way, or at the very least, you're becoming, you're becoming more conscious of what is important to you. And I feel like all of us just want to feel good, you know? We all desire to feel good. We desire to feel good in our bodies, desire to feel good in our minds, in our lives, in our relationships. But it really does come to the relationship you have with yourself, because from that relationship, those are the eyes that you view everything else, and you in a way decide how you move in your life. I don't think we should be giving just anybody the label of a best friend. I think, like, you know, everyone is different, but for me, like, I'm not just gonna call anybody my bestie because it's a big title. It's a big title, just like it is for a boyfriend, a husband. It holds a big title because when I'm like down for you, like I'm down for you. Like I'm not a fucking wishy-washy person. Like when I know that you're there for me, like I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna, like, that's just me. I'm a person that, like, I just naturally am. I just have that ability to give in a way, but when it's left unchecked, you kind of just do that for everybody. But when you are solid in yourself and you have been able to appreciate and above all enjoy your own company, like you come to understand and learn that, like, the people that are going to be in my life moving forward are going to add to my life, or at the very least are going to support cultivating an environment where I feel good, where I feel supported, where I feel cared for, where I feel loved, where I feel empowered, and where honesty is a value that is practiced. And I really do believe, like, in order to, like, believe you are worthy of that and deserve that, is in a way you have to embrace offering that to yourself first. Because when you do, you already have set the standard. You already have developed an identity that is not going to settle just for the sake of having friendships or relationships or having so many friends or having being popular or whatever we are told is important. When you learn to, like, truly embody what self-love is, and that's not just loving the best parts of yourself, but like loving all parts of yourself, the shadow and the light and everything in between, you develop an identity that will not tolerate any less of the values that are important to you and the values and the treatment that you offer to yourself. Because a person that treats themselves with kindness, acceptance, honesty, empowerment, encouragement, support, love, once they're able to give themselves that, they're not going to keep themselves in environments that do not provide that. They're going to be like, no, like, I don't need mistreatment to feel connection. Your perspective of connection and love will shift in a much more healthy and feel good way, because feeling good will be your main goal. When we become curious about the attachment style that we have when in relationship with other people, we can understand where we stand and what we accept and what we push away. And from that point of view, you will learn a lot about how you show up. And from there, you can shift how you move, how you, like, not only how you feel about yourself, but how you're able to make a much more grounded decision of moving forward. This is what I desire. And of course, I can be understanding and open to communication and understanding other people's point of view. But if I already feel like the vibe is not there and I have to, like, constantly tell people how to treat me, or the energy is weird, the behavior is weird. You know, like everybody's very intelligent. All of us, I do believe, are very no. At the we are all energetic beings, and we all are able to understand when the vibe is off, and we should not shut off that part of us. And we should be open to allowing that part of us to guide us in everything in our lives. But in this scenario of friendships, it really is helpful in guiding you of what environments or situations you choose to remain. Because at the end of the day, everything is a choice, even if it's unconscious. And that's something I had to learn. And I truly do believe all of the connections and friendships and relationships you've had and currently have are playing a major role in your journey back home. You know, sometimes we do have painful experiences within friendships and relationships that don't necessarily, of course, feel good in the moment. But I do believe that we will all get to a place where are able to consciously reflect on the value that each relationship has had on our journey, on our human experience. And I'm really grateful that I'm been able to understand that, you know, everything does really happen for a reason and everything really does occur as it should. Everything just comes down to choice, to the choices you make and the beliefs you hold about yourself. Ultimately, solitude, I would say, is the best position you can begin to intentionally move forward from a place of knowing that you deserve to feel good and you deserve to feel love and you have more power in the circumstances of how you feel than you probably think or have been told you are. You know, it's in a way, it's kind of a paradox or ironic to say that, like, when we're alone, we're able to better understand how we truly desire to feel when we are in connection with others. It's, in a way, the duality of life. So I'd like to leave this with saying that the relationship you have with yourself is the relationship you have with everything. And there is beauty in becoming curious of where you stand in the connection you have with yourself. Because from that place of understanding, you're able to better move throughout your life and align yourself with situations and people that feel good, that feel make you feel not like you have to try so hard, but if anything, inspired to be even more of who you are and less of who you are not. Because once you befriend yourself, you will choose to befriend what feels good.